Hello everyone. Today we are going to look at the challenges in the industrial sector, and we will look at various challenges from infrastructural constraints to raw materials to financing. The major challenge to industrial sector is the contraction in the index of industrial production. The index of industrial production has been contracting, which clearly indicate that slowdown is happening and production level in the economy are declining. The IIP takes into account 8 core industries. These 8 core industries are coal, fertilizer, electricity, crude oil, natural gas, refinery product, steel, and cement. The IIP measures the changes in the volume of production of goods. So it looks at the physical volume of goods. It measures whether physical volume or the volume of goods is actually falling or increasing. The IIP data is published on monthly basis by the Central Statistical Organization, which is under MOSPI. The second problem is also the crucial thing in the IIP is that higher weightage is given to the manufacturing sector, followed by mining. Second factor is the textile and apparel sector. So the problems in the textile sector, as we know that textile sector is one of the largest employment sector because it employs close to 4.5 crore people directly and 6 crore people in the allied industry. The contribution of the textile sectors in the manufacturing sector was 18% and to country's GDP was 2% in the FY 2018. India's textile sector is second largest in the world, both in terms of manufacturing and exports. So the importance of this sector can be seen from the numbers as well. But this sector faces number of problems like technological gap in weaving, processing and embroidery, and this has directly impacted its capacity, its its strength to fight or to compete with the international product. Second is the competitors in the international market get duty-free access, and so this directly impact the competition as those goods are cheaper as compared to our textile goods. Third is the problems in starting a business or registration of a property, etc. These things can be seen from the ease of doing business report, which is published by World Bank. Now, in the ease of doing business report, we have seen that India's rank has improved to 63, but by studying the report in detail, we can see that there are various other indicators where India's performance has not improved. So various parameters are there where India is performing very poor. For instance, in starting a business, India's rank stood at 136, which clearly indicate that we need to do more so that starting a business becomes easier. So ease is there. Now when ease is there in starting a business, definitely industrial growth will increase. Second is about the registration of property, and India's rank stood at 154. This problem it talks about the land acquisition problem, delay in getting land clearances and other types of NOCs. So registering property is also one of the major problems which is impacting the industrial growth. The third is about trading across the borders. Trading across the borders means international trade and all, and we have seen that recently international trade has also got a major blow because of US-China trade war and various other regional issues. Thus, these indicators has also affected India's growth rate in the industrial sector. The third major problem is about finance and credit. Getting a credit for the industrial sector is not easy because we know that the demand is huge but the availability is less. The weak capital base of the industries owing to sole proprietorships and the lower profits directly impact their credit worthiness. Government under priority sector lending has mandated that 40% of the credit should be diverted for agriculture, small business, cottage industries, etc. so that their credit needs can be met and these industries can also participate in boosting the India's economic growth. The diversion or the credits to the industry, especially the small scale industries, has been very less because banks have said that they face various issues. One is lower recovery rates, which indicate that NPAs are high. Second is higher lending cost. 17% of the bank credit was in the small scale industry, and we know that various issues are there, especially when funds are diverted to the small scale industries, because recovery becomes the major challenge. This all has led to a triple bind crisis. Now, what is this triple bind? So, when there is lesser credit to the small firms, this is because of the large bias against small firms, that recovery will be less, they won't be able to utilize this properly. Now, we also know that the large firms depend on the small firms for the raw material. So, this leads to a triple bind issue. And this problem severely affects the large scale sector. So see, when lesser credit will be there, this is because of the larger bias against small firms. Now when less credit will be given to small firms, they won't be able to provide that much raw material as demanded by the large firms. Now this will impact the growth in the large industry. So overall, the economic growth will fall down. So this is triple bind issue. Other problem is about infrastructural constraint, and this can be evident from the fact that government has now planned to spend more than 100 lakh crore on in the infrastructure sector through national infrastructure pipeline. The infrastructural constraints has severely affected the growth rate in the industrial sector. Access to stable, reliable power supply is still a major challenge, which most often leads to wear and tear of machines, rampant corruption at all the levels, which impact the time, which lead to time delay in setting up of industry, in getting clearances, etc. Storage capacity issues, lack of connectivity. The connectivity issue leads to higher cost of transportation and raw material issues. In the absence of proper infrastructure, say roadways or railways, and communication facilities, industrial development could not be attained in those regions which have huge development potential. So there won't be a balanced development, but there will be an unbalanced development. And those regions which have the potential to develop are not able to develop because of infrastructural constraint, and those regions remains underdeveloped. The infrastructure constraints also had led to rise in the cost of transportation of the raw material and the finished goods, the rise in the transportation cost, lesser accessibility to newer markets, and the existing market also faces some sort of infrastructural constraint. The labor market issues, as labor has to migrate to the industrial location, and when infrastructural facilities are not developed, labor is more likely not to migrate to such regions. The raw material and the inverted tariff issue. Now what is this? So high tariff on raw material is there, but low is there on finished good. Thus this impact the exports. Second is exploitation by traders, as cotton is supplied on a condition that finished products be sold to them and not directly in the open market or not directly exported. Now this happens in most of the cases. It is not that it always happens, but most of the traders do such type of exploitation which directly affect the profitability of the small scale manufacturers. Industries are largely dependent on agriculture for the raw material. So they're dependent on agriculture because we know that various industries are allied to agriculture, and agriculture in fact is dependent on monsoon, because monsoon determines whether the production will be high or low, whether bumper production will be there or not. Whenever monsoon gets delayed or when rains are not adequate, the production capability severely gets affected, and thus the growth of the allied industry also comes down. Issues in connectivity further affects the supply of material, especially the perishable goods, because these goods have less shelf life, and so for the transportation of perishable goods, a good connectivity is required. The other major problem are the machines and other equipments, because we know that the machines are decades old, which has directly impacted the productivity, led to rise in the cost, and also consume high electricity. So products are also not in line with the market dynamics, which indicates that lesser diversification is there, because old machines are there. They lead to lesser productivity, high input cost per unit cost, high consumption of electricity, and all of these, because these are old machines, they don't have the capacity to produce diversified products. So lesser diversification is there because these are not modern machines and these cannot change with the change of the market. So lesser diversification impacted the consumer base and the older industry declined and the new industry comes up. Second is about problem of marketing. Now, small industries and the industrial sector faces this problem of marketing because industries have little knowledge of marketing through modern channels, through e-marketing, telemarketing, etc. Access to technology is also a problem because digital divide in India is huge. And in terms of the online marketplace, share of MSME is also very less. Now, this all indicate that marketing is affecting the sales of the companies or the industries, which in turn affect the growth rate. Third is about delayed payment. Now, frequent delayed payments are there usually by the large industries because credit period is there. So most of the transaction takes place on credit. Now, whenever delayed payments are there, the financial viability and operations of the small industries are affected. And we know that the small firms have lesser bargaining power and they are forced or compelled to give longer credit period, which directly affects their operations. This can be evident in the sugarcane industry where where the farmers don't get their dues on time. There is often a larger credit period and here government comes to their rescue. Then there is a problem of sickness in the industry. An interministerial committee of the government has found that there are more than 2 lakh sick industrial units in our country with an outstanding credit of 12,800 crore. So sickness is also a major problem in the industrial sector. And the last and the important is poor database. We know that most of the policies of the government are based on databases and the current data. But what if the data is not updated on timely basis? This will lead to poor policy decision and will affect the growth of the industries. The Small Industrial Development Bank of India or SIDBI has reported that there is an urgent need to upgrade and collect the data on small scale industries on regular basis so that effective and timely policy decisions can be taken. So these were few problems which the industrial sector is facing and this has also affected the growth rate. Now let us look at few practice questions. Question first is, with respect to IIP or Index of Industrial Production, select the correct answer. Here the correct answer will be option 4, which is IIP is the only indicator which measures change in volume of production in India. Yes, in India, IIP is the only indicator. Now option first 2, 3 and are wrong because option first is highest weightage is given to mining. No, highest weightage is given to manufacturing sector. Option 2 is also wrong because 8 sectors are there. 7 are not there, but 8 core sectors are there. And third is also wrong because it is not NSO, but CSO collects the data. Thank you.